Legends, welcome back to another team preview from the Ruck Infringement podcast. Of course, Joey here, the Prophet, and joining me today, it's our Sydney Roosters team preview. And who else could I have on but these two Rooster diehards and, podcast legends, social media legends. Let's start off with my good mate, Retro Rugby League. How are you, buddy?
Joey, good to be back. I feel like we're a little sparse. Usually we've got like almost 8 of us in here or something like that. But no, I'm going well. I'm getting excited for the season ahead. It feels like it's just creeping closer and closer. Vegas, the hype's starting to build a little bit. So yeah, keen to get into it.
Mate, there's usually a lot of us where try to be a bit more professional in 2026. So, we might cut it a little bit. And of course, joining us, the Leaguie, the one and only. We finally get the chance to have you on, mate. How you going?
Thank you. Yeah, it's very, very good to be here as someone who really tries to go out of his way to avoid Roosters bias in his content. It's good that today I can just let my hair down and talk about the red, white, and bluesters. That's going to be very good. So I'm looking forward to it.
I love it, mate. How do you think I feel? This is my 6th team preview so far, and I've had to be objective in all of them. All right, let's get straight into it, boys. This is the Sydney Roosters preview. We're going to start with some ins and outs for 2026. Now, obviously, the big one, everyone knows, Daly Cherry Evans, the big in for the Roosters this season. He comes with an incredible pedigree, 300-odd games for Manly, a one-club player over there, and now heading to the mighty Chooks. League, we'll start off with you, mate. Thoughts on this signing initially, and now have your thoughts changed at all?
Well, my thoughts sort of started positive, then went a bit negative, then have come back to positive. It's been a real big roller coaster, but it is like the most spoken about signing I think I've seen in a very, very long time. Seeing a guy who was so synonymous with Manly coming to the Roosters, very Bob Fulton sort of energy from back in the day. But it's one where I feel like I would rather support a team that takes a gamble like this, a potentially risky signing, but where the payoff is potentially huge in order to win a premiership, than a team who maybe recruits a little bit more safely to finish top 4 and make a prelim. I feel like that's something that we really do strive for as a team. And while it's going to be difficult for Robbo to manage everything in that spine, I think if it does click, it's going to be magnificent.
Mate,
if the numbers are to be... I was just going to just jump straight in off the back of League there, because if the numbers are to be believed in what they sign him for, which is $500K in a car, it's no risk at all. You couldn't sign a halves coach for that. So, like, to get a guy in, even if he gets injured halfway through the year for $500K, what are we talking? I mean, Melbourne's tried to throw $200K at the Eels to try and release Zach Lomax. We're talking half of that to get TC at your club. Zero risk involved. Of course, last time we saw some of this was Cooper Cronk, 18-19. And Cooper in an interview said, the expectation will be, DCE, you've got to get us to a grand final. Anything less is a failure. But all through this, whether it was going to happen or not happen, I didn't mind either way, because it was a win-win scenario for me. If we didn't get him, we pursue the next thing. If we got him, great. If he sticks around afterwards as a halves coach, great. The stuff that Sam Walker and Hugo Savala and all these guys will learn, great. And it sounds like from training that he's now becoming one of the biggest voices in the room, that Teddy's sort of talking less and DC is talking more. So, yeah, it's a huge signing, and I see zero downside.
It's very, very exciting. Retro, I was going to throw to you about our other big signing. Obviously, he's flown under the radar a little bit because everyone's been on the DCE train, but Reece Robson, mate, he comes with a great pedigree as well.
Absolutely. I thought you were going to talk about a big signing in Adidas. There you go. I thought that was you letting me loose off the jersey train there.
Go for it, mate. Go for it.
Yeah. But no, Reece Robson is, in a way, I like it. It's Jake Friend 2.0. He's a tackling machine. He just stands his ground in the middle. He's not going to do anything super flash, but to stand and deliver in terms of service, you won't get anything by him. And if the guys around him do their job, tackle machines and your kind of front rowers and the like, then that middle will get locked up, and we might see the old Bondi Wall from the early 2000s come back. So I really like how he rolls out there. The question, I'll throw this to you, Leaguey, is then you've got him and you've got a couple of other kind of young guys that would maybe float in and around that halves or hooker role. Connor Watson, Uelu, and even Hugo Savala may run into that. One, is Robson going to get subbed off, or is he just play 80 minutes? And two, if he does, well, how does that affect the kind of team flow?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of the $1 million question when it comes to putting a Roosters team together. It's definitely the toughest spot. I struggle to see a world where he doesn't get subbed off purely because of how effective Connor Watson is with his running game at 9. I love Watson. I think bringing him to 9 for a bit of the game frees up that 13 spot for maybe a Victor Radley to go back there, or potentially a Hugo Savala. I have heard some whispers that he's doing a bit of ball playing there through the middle. But then you've got Yuelu, who I rate so highly, and I'm sort of coming almost to a little bit of a conclusion that maybe his path is a bit blocked at the Roosters with Robson and Watson being there. So if there's a way that they can integrate him there, if he's in the 14 jersey, I would really love to see that, especially in a World Cup year with him playing for Samoa. But on Robson more generally, I mean, I saw the bloke in the Bar Boys speak the other week about how they kind of feel he won't be used all that much at the Roosters, but I think that's okay. We just need someone to be very simple, very effective, tackle hard, give quality service, and let Walker, DC, and Tedesco run the show. So simplified role, but to get the Blues hooker in your team and for that not to be the headline signing, I love being a fan of this club. Let's put it that way.
And the exact thing that you're talking about in the Blues, I would expect that's the way he'll play for the Roosters. And you don't really notice him for the Blues, but he just plugs up the middle. And I think that's exactly what Jake Friend did. So I think that's more than okay.
Just to touch on that, boys, Savala coming through the grades actually played a bit of second row too. So he was more known as a second rower, which is a great body to have on your bench, obviously, to be able to fill that sort of role. Connor Watson, from all reports that I have, is starting lock. So Naf White's going to be at front row with Lindsay, and Watson's going to be lock. So until Victor's back, at least, I think Robson gets 80. I think they play Savala as a second row, lock forward, so he might take some minutes off Connor. He may come on for Crichton or Wong, depending if they're tired. But yeah, I think Robson plays 80 for at least 6-7 weeks.
Yeah, it could be
in terms of the ball playing back rowers. I mean, we saw how effective a guy like Ryan Madison was for us back in 2018. So to potentially develop Savala into that kind of role, we know Robinson likes that in the past, so that could be the way to go.
Yeah, and obviously Crichton going at 2027. Maybe Savala slots straight in next to Wong. Never know. It's just I think that'd be dreaming there. But
I was just going to say, I think that we're pretty stacked for second rollers and front rollers and stuff. You know, with Marky Mark looking at leaving and Angus leaving. I'm really not that worried because we've just got so many guys coming through. The fact that we're having to think about where we put Victor Radley really tells you where we're at. And it looks like 100%. When he comes back, he might go back to that edge position. So we'll wait and see. But I don't think there's too much to be concerned within that regard. There's probably something else to be concerned with. We'll probably chat about that in a minute, that the window may close soon after this. So
Yes, very much so. But the other big signing is another Manly legend in Tommy Talau, comes over as well. Of course, girlfriend is Jess Surgis, who plays for the Roosters in NRLW. So it was inevitable that was going to happen. Boys, let's talk a couple of losses. Sandon Smith, probably the biggest one from last season, heading over to Newcastle Knights, which I think is really, really good for the Knights. Sandon is a great player. We saw what he did last year, and I think this is actually a really good move from them. He's a local Central Coast boy as well, so he knows the area pretty well. I think he'll fit right in there. Not much of a loss for the Roosters, in my opinion. We just talked about Savala coming through. They're the main ones, really, for the club. Brendan Smith obviously left mid-year, as did Dom Young, so don't really include them in the 2026 losses. All right, let's jump into our 2025 review of the Sydney Roosters. Now, obviously, look, start of the season, we lost about 8 players. People were talking about the Roosters not really having a big go of it in 2025. I think some people had us as low as 14th, 15th. We were going to finish right down the bottom of the table. Everyone was calling for Robbo's head. This was, we then play round 1. The Broncos kill us 50 points to 8 or whatever it was, 4. I sort of tuned out that game when they put 50 on us. And everyone was saying, oh, that's it. The Roosters are shot. Here we go, blah, 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 blah. Back up the next week against Penrith, $11 odds. We win that game. Haven't beat Penrith for 9 years, since 2019. Boys, let's talk a bit about 2025 review. Obviously, League, we finished in 8th position, scraped into finals. We actually looked really good heading into finals. Mate, where did it go wrong for the Roosters in 2025?
Look, I think 2025 was one of the most fun years I've had supporting this club, which does feel weird given that it was a mid-table season. But just because of
Yeah.
all of the young guys that we brought through, the successes that they had, when you look at someone like Robert Toya, for instance, playing in Origin and playing for Tonga, I was really, really happy with the year. As far as rebuild seasons go, to still make the finals and be, pushing very hard towards the end of the season, as you mentioned, I thought it was very good. And, in an era where Trent Robinson is sort of under a bit of pressure year on year, I think 2025 was a pretty big success for him. Obviously, I would have liked to have gone beyond week one of the finals. But as far as I'm concerned, if you're not really winning a premiership or making a grand final, I don't really care where you finish in the finals. History doesn't remember that. So
right.
In terms of building towards a premiership, potentially in 2026, I think 2025 was a really, really positive year for the club.
Yeah, Retro, I want to throw to you about the whole Trent Robinson thing, mate. He joined the club in 2013. He's won 4 comps in that time, 3 minor premierships. 3 comps, 4 minor premierships. And he's been very successful. We've only missed finals 1 year, and that whole time was 2016. Mate, what's the knock on him? Why are people, or why were fans calling for his head?
I don't know. I don't know if any real, were real rusted on fans calling for his head, or is it just kind of the fleeting reaction of people who just, vitriolic and want something to spray? Like, let's be honest, Trent Robinson isn't going anywhere. And the chief reason is who's better? Who's out there in the market? Who's better? You'd be ridiculous to get rid of him. And then who are you going to sign? I don't know.
100%.
Des, who's coming from the clouds? There's no one coming. So you've basically got one of the top 3 coaches in the league. He's not going anywhere. And part of his ability seems to go beyond coaching into being able to recruit and convince players to come to him instead of someone else, sometimes for less cash. So, there's nothing going on there. The thing that has been going on for the Roosters for a little while, two angles that kind of seem to have been a bit of a Trent Robinson trait, and one of them would be admitted, is the fact that usually for the opening 10 rounds, what you get out of them is not really indicative of what you'll see at the end of the season. And Robinson said in previous things that he doesn't mind what the results are. He just wants to see certain markers on the field. Unfortunately, what that has led to is run chases at the end of seasons, trying to scrape into finals because a few games got thrown away at the start. The second thing is, I've got their, draw 2025 draw in front of me. And every time you kind of look through and you think, they've had a breakthrough win here, they follow it up with just kind of a shambolic loss. So they beat the Cowboys in June, then got pipped by the Tigers the next weekend. Then they come out and beat the Dragons. Then they got beaten by the Sharks in that kind of real sour game. And they narrowly lost to the Storm. They beat the Eagles. Then they go on a bit of a run. And then they just, pooped the bed against the Sharks in the finals. And Sharks were good, but Roosters really just saved some of their worst performances to last. So that's the kind of, it's the hot and cold nature of the Chooks. And I don't know how you bottle it and then get rid of it, but maybe DCE is the antidote to that problem.
Mate, you're exactly right. I think that's the biggest knock for me as a devout fan. It has just been, how we can perform so well one week and then another week we come out and it just errors, ill discipline, and it just is 14, 15 errors a game. You shouldn't be winning games when you're making 14, 15 errors. But our attack is so good. If we give the ball to Mark, the guy's a freak. We know what he showed in 2025. But I completely agree with you along that line. I think the biggest thing for me it's been so frustrating watching us. It was that Tigers game you spoke of. We were really, really sluggish for that month. We beat the Dragons, as you said, after that. But that Tigers game, I just remember watching that game going, the Tigers haven't beaten us since 2018. They have not beaten us for a long time. And then, look, credit to us. We almost won the game. We only lost by 2 points. I think if we had 5 more minutes. But, game's only 80 minutes long. Anyway, we come out the week after. We beat the Dragons. And then, we just looked really sluggish. And I remember after that month, Tedesco talking in the press conference about how sluggish we were. And he said, it has not been a good month for us. And we want to have a better one coming up. And then we won 5 or 6 in a row. Heading into the Eels game, which we lost Semi Walker and lost that match. But look, the end of the season, we looked really good. Let's hope 2026 we start strong and we finished strong as well. But that's it for our 2025 review. We're going to jump into a bit of SuperCoach NRL fantasy now. Now, the boys told me off air they're not the greatest SuperCoach players, so I'm going to take us through this. We're going to go through a couple of players, some price points, and maybe some players you can grab for your squad. All right, we're going to start off at the top. He's the most expensive player for the Roosters and, the reigning Dally M medalist. It's James Tedesco, $869K, obviously playing him at fullback. Anyone that gets Tedesco in their team, I am not going to say no to, because he is a premium SuperCoach player. He gets you the points. He's actually one of the highest scorers in SuperCoach. I just will say this year, something that Retro mentioned before about Cherry Evans being the voice in the team and Tedesco taking a bit of a step back, the input might not be there as much. So do keep track of that. I wouldn't be picking Tedesco from round 1 in SuperCoach if I was you. I'd wait a couple of weeks to see how the team is going to play, how they're going to gel before making that decision. He's a fantastic buy after the origin period because, or even during if he doesn't get picked, because you get him over that period and he's just absolutely on fire. The next one is Mark Nwangani Tawaze, centre wing, $735K. Now, last year, he was absolutely electric in SuperCoach. A couple of those games there where he tonned up easily. The Doggies game where he scored the ball, kicking it down the sideline, scoring it. Incredible stuff. And he has really gone up in price this year. $735K. Avoid for me. Do not jump on Marky Mark. If you're looking at centre wings, there are so many good options out there. I just don't know if he'll get the input this year. It all depends, again, on the halves and the sides that they go. I believe if Cherry Evans does play 6, as being rumoured, that he will be on Tupou's side. So if he is on the side of Tupou, you think he's going to be kicking to the air. We know what Tupous is like in the air. He's an aerial threat, and that means Walker's heading Marky Mark's side. I have found with Walker in the past that he will go aerial, but Walker also likes to take the line on. So it'll be interesting to see if Marky Mark does get that ball. If he's on the wing, he's more of a buy than if they play him in the centres. If he gets picked in the centres, do not pick him in SuperCoach. All right, let's move on to another player I want to talk about, Sammy Walker, $683K. Now, a lot of people are picking their halves for SuperCoach already. The Moseses, Nathan Cleary is obviously very popular. Penrith have a pretty poor schedule to start the year, so I wouldn't be going with Cleary personally. But Sammy Walker, he's an interesting one. The 7 is his spot. Barring injury, no one else is probably coming for that spot. He's got fantastic job security. We know what he can do. I think he's actually a really, really good play. If you're looking for a premium option in your half, who's a little bit cheaper than your Clearys, your Moseses, your Nico Hines, look for Sammy Walker. I think he's a fantastic option. Obviously, there's a lot of cheapies this year. Jonah Pezzett, Ethan Sanders. We've got Daniel Atkinson down at the Dragons. So lots of cheapies in the halves. But if you are looking for a premium option there, Sammy Walker. We're going to move down a little bit to a player who was really good in SuperCoach last year, Nath White. Now, front row, $584K, absolutely carved up last season. Not a bad play if you are looking. Just remember, he will most likely be playing prop, which means his minutes will most likely be more reduced than if he was playing lock, as we do have a bit of a front row rotation. So if you are looking for that, just beware that he may not get the same input. If he plays 55 to 60 minutes, he's a buy in my team. I think at that price, $584K, that's pretty cheap in SuperCoach. So I wouldn't mind jumping on in that one. All right, let's talk a couple.
Just on Nath White. Sorry, could that potentially change though? Like when Victor comes back.
Yeah. It all depends. I personally think Victor's going to play on the edge. I think Wong will move back to the bench. I mean, it depends on the form Wong's in, but I think they're going to play Victor on the edge. And the main reason they started that was because of the head knocks, but also because of the suspensions that he was copying at lock. The tackling technique at lock, he was doing more tackles than on the edge. And so they actually moved him to the edge to stop him getting suspended so much. I think.
I was just going to say, it also seemed to be a switch in style. So less ball playing rock, Isaiah Yeo, more just another big bopper through the middle. And I personally like that style more. So interesting. Wait and see.
I completely agree. I think White's role is pretty safe in the team. Like, obviously the rotation on the bench, if you look, we're probably going to have Blake Steep on there, who is more of a lock anyway. But with Savala, they may take Savala at lock. Maybe Steep moves into the front row. Obviously, Spencer's there as well off the bench. So, I think for fans, if you are playing SuperCoach, just watch White and how the Roosters are going to go. Obviously, we don't know anything yet. We haven't even had kickoff for round one. So just wait a couple of weeks before you jump into these players. But the next one I want to talk about, Reece Robson. Hooker, 497K. Now, hooker in SuperCoach is a very, very hard position to get. You only get two, and you want one to be a cheapie who's getting bulk minutes and the other to be a premium. Now, Harry Grant's your premium hooker in SuperCoach. However, Storm, again, have a really, really tough schedule to start the year. So I wouldn't be jumping on any, premium Storm players to start the season. Cheapies, absolutely go for it. But I wouldn't be starting with your premiums. Reece Robson looks like a great output. And if what I said was true before and he does get 80 minutes, lock him in, because he will average over 50, 60 points just through his ball playing, just through passing the ball, getting into space, tackling. He'll get those points easily. So he's one that I'm definitely looking at in my team. If we go down to some cheap options, obviously the likes of Tommy Talau. I don't know if Tommy really gets a run this year. He is at 355K. Now, it's pretty cheap in SuperCoach. It all depends on injuries to Marky Mark and Toops as well. But look, probably not going to get a run there. The other one is Cody Ramsey, coming over from the Dragons, center, wing, and fullback dual, which is very, very handy. However, the Roosters have said that because of all the weight he lost, he's predominantly a fullback. And when you got the best fullback in the world, barring injury, he's probably not going to get a run at all. So I would say definitely jump off Ramsey. If you do have him as a cheap option, it would be only if there was an injury for an extended period of time. All right, that is really it for our SuperCoach. Don't forget that we do have a comp running through the Ruck Infringement podcast and our great friends at SuperCoach Rings, SC Rings. Check them out on social media. The code there is 693809. So throw that code. I'll put it in the description as well. But if you throw that code into your SuperCoach app, join us, take us on. It's going to be lots of fun. All right, boys, back to it. Let's look at some players to watch for 2026 for the Sydney Roosters. Retro, you want to start us off?
Well, I think Reece Robson is one of the ones we've talked about. All eyes will be on DCE, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how Reece Robson goes, and hopefully just getting stuck into his work. Of course, DCE will be the other big, exciting, big name one to watch. But my favorite Rooster at the moment, or one of my favorites, is Billy Smith. And I hope that he has a uninjured year and just really shines a light on what he can do. The Mayor of Bondi, I love to see him in full flight. He just stands so many people up, like he plays against these such great players and shows I'm just as good. And then he just cops such horrific injuries. So I'm hoping for Billy 1 year uninjured.
It was good last year. I think he only had one injury last year, but he played most of the season, which was great for Billy. So it's a fantastic shout, mate. Leaguie, who's a player to watch in 2026?
Well, it's good. I've gone a bit of a different direction. You mentioned earlier how much back row depth we have, and obviously Angus Crichton knocks down one of those positions, but he will be unavailable through Origin, presumably throughout a period of the year. And I think that level of competition we have will really drive a lot of these guys to be at their very, very best. A man like Siwa Wong, when he came along, there was a lot of hype, and he did have a little bit of a slow burn. But I feel that last year he stepped up a fair bit. And this year I really see, I think, end of the year, there's a World Cup for him. He's eligible for Tonga and Fiji. So I think he'll really be pushing, and we could really see the development of a premier player in that position. Another one I do want to mention, and this isn't really a young guy. He's also not a new signing, but I've seen a lot of Roosters predicted 17s and stuff that don't include Nat Butcher. He's a little bit of a forgotten man. He only played 4 games last year, but if he, is seeing any of that, he might really have a point to prove, because there was a period when he was coming along and I really thought this is one of the most solid back rowers in the Premiership and was one of our most consistent players. So if he can lock down a spot, doesn't need to do anything too special with the other guys we have in the team, he could be a really, really solid addition to our side for next season.
I love that. I actually think Butcher could even get first crack over Wong in the second row, just based on experience and how good of a player he is. Nat Butcher was actually the captain when, I don't know if you guys remember a few years back when the Roosters beat Penrith in that incredible comeback game in the under-20s. It was amazing. And Butcher captained that side, and I'm pretty sure, and they pretty much won it off some of his brilliance. So fantastic player. Boys, for me, player to watch, Feketi. Now, Feketi has been incredible for the Roosters last season. I thought in the games he played, he has looked absolutely electric. Angus Crichton leaving in 2027. Feketi is licking his lips. That spot will hopefully be his. come 2027. And I think he'll be in for a big 2026 if he does land a bench spot, or dependent on what way they go, if they go with Natty Butcher or Egan even. But for Keddy, for me, he is a player to watch. He is one that is electrifying. And if he gets a crack, he will light it up. The other one, boys, Daniel Tupou, coming up on 300 games, still so underrated. I cannot believe when people talk about wingers, they don't include Daniel Tupou in their top 10. It's just incredible. I think it's 11 games to play this year, 10 or 11 games to play this season to crack 300. And, he's at 175 tries, I want to say. I'm not sure if that's 100% correct. But so the form of Daniel Tupou over the past couple of seasons has been incredible. A couple of years ago, everyone said that he was a bit washed up, probably wasn't going anywhere. Played for Origin, and then everyone went, I'm not sure if Daniel Tupou is still the answer. Roosters offered him a 1-year contract, and last season he was still in the top 5 players for top try scorers with Marky Mark as well. So Daniel Tupou, forever the GOAT. He's underrated. Let's hope he gets to 300 games this year and gets close to breaking the record as well. Or coming second to AJ would be incredible, getting close to the 200 tries. But that is some players to watch for 2026. All right. Sorry.
If I could just jump in there. You mentioned earlier with DC being potentially on that edge, him loving to go aerial. In 2013, which was one of Tupou's first seasons, we went aerial all year for him. And he scored a classic try in a grand final over David Williams there. Ever since then, I feel like he's been underutilized aerially. And it's bizarre because we still talk about him as an aerial specialist, but maybe this season we'll finally be putting more high balls up to him. And as you say, we could see not a breakout season, but maybe one of the better seasons of his career still. If, his legacy is still very, very good. If he can build on that, he could really retire as one of the best that we've seen.
Also, they did the potential. I was just going to say, there's also the potential for him possibly this year, and if not next, if he plays on one more, to go to the highest capped Rooster of all time. So JWH is at 310. Tupou's now at 289. So if he gets through a whole season of 25 games plus finals, he could break that record.
JWH would have been about 330. I think 20 of those were suspensions. So, pretty crazy stuff. We love Big Jared. Look, you're exactly right on both accounts there, boys. The big thing is 2025, we did that. Well, I thought we went aerial a lot to Tupes, and he scored every time. Every time the ball went left, he's safe as houses on that left edge. I think it was the game where the other Tupou, Junior Tupou, filled in, and it was woeful. He filled in for Daniel, and he was absolutely woeful. I felt so bad for the kid. It was against the Eels, actually, that game we lost against the Eels. And Tupes was out in that game. And the poor guy, I was like, he might have the last name, but he doesn't live up to the name at all. Shout out to Junior Tupou, who'll be playing reserve grade this year. Boys, let's jump into a bit of the ladder finish for 2026. Leaguie, we're going to start off with you. Where do the Chooks finish this season?
Well, look, I haven't exactly gone through my entire 17 teams and figured out exactly where everyone's going to finish. But to me, looking at this Roosters side, it should be a top 4 team. And to be honest, I'm not thinking that we finish 4th. I'm thinking 1, 2, or 3. If we could secure a home grand final, I think that'd be a very good season. If we not grand final, home, first week of the finals. That if we get an away game, I think that's pretty much par, given how good this side is, which does feel like a big statement, given that I think there've been a number of seasons in recent years where we've underachieved, but Robertson has taken on a big task in getting this side of superstars and figuring out a formula that works for all of them. But if he can get it right, which should be the expectation, it'll do very, very well.
Absolutely. Retro, where are we going to finish this season?
Well, you're right, Leaguey. Like it's hard to. We all want to put our team in a certain position, but we've got to factor in all the other teams around it, right? And so, as much as I'd love to think the Roosters push their way up right to first, Penrith are not going to come back into this season lying down. They're going to be absolutely stinging for revenge. The Broncos haven't even hit the roof of their potential, not even close, in my opinion. So I agree. I think there should be top 4 side, and I could think 3 or 4, position 3 or 4 would be very good. Anything above that is gold. Of course, like you said before, League, it doesn't really matter until you either win a grand final or you don't. And so we'll be hoping for that top 4 finish, even just for the second chance. But I think that's doable. If I had to put a number, I'd probably say 3.
Crazy boys. I've actually done my top 8, my full 17, and I've got us at third. I think we finished third. I think it's going to be a fantastic year for the Chooks. It's crazy the teams you mentioned there, Retro, because I'll reveal to people here, my top 4 is actually Panthers first, Broncos second, Roosters third, and Sharks fourth. So that's my top 4 for this season. I've got Melbourne dropping out. I just think with Katoa and Pappenhausen gone, I don't think they recover there. But look, that's a bit of a sneak peek for some other previews. But yeah, I've gone the Roosters at third, and I've got us as grand finalists against the Broncos as well. So I think it'll be a Broncos-Roosters grand final. Roosters win 17-16. But you heard it here first anyway. Just make note of it. You know, they call me the prophet. All right, let's do some last words before we finish up. Leaguie, last words for the Roosters fans. Fire them up, mate, for 2026.
Well, as Roosters fans, I feel like year on year, we always sort of have something to be excited about. And this season really does stand out. I remember the longest offseason I ever had was when we signed Cooper Cronk and James Tedesco, because I was just waiting for what I knew was going to be an incredible year. And this has a very similar feeling to it. We've got such a good side, such a great mix of experience, but also great young guys coming through. That's exactly the kind of formula that you want. So this season is going to be very good for the Roosters. I'm looking forward to seeing a packed out Allianz as often as possible. And it's going to be a great season ahead.
I was going to say, this is the 3 Roosters fans just here. This is a home game right now.
Retro as well. There's 4 of us. There's 4 of us.
Oh, sorry, Hainsey. We can't forget Hainsey. Retro, give us some last words for Roosters fans for 2026.
Look, I think this is yet another season where every man and his dog is saying the Roosters will win the comp or, thereabouts. And with that comes a lot of pressure and this kind of not dread, but this kind of like, if you win, it's a feeling of relief, sometimes more than a feeling of victory. However, what a privilege to be supporting a team that every year you walk into a season and think we are a genuine chance to win the premiership this year. Newcastle fans, I hate to say, can't say that. Tigers fans for a long time have not said that. Parramatta fans will never say that until the sun explodes. So like you have when you're playing for the Tricolours or when you're following the Tricolours, pretty well every year you walk into the season saying we are a genuine hope. And this is looking like one of those seasons where all the bits and pieces have been ticked. You got the champion, you got the maverick, you got the veteran out the back. You got these kind of hot young forwards who are just about to leave, so they want their last hurrah. You got one of the most excitement machines on the edge of Marky Mark. You got the mayor of Bondi. You got the good-looking pirate. Everyone's here for the Roosters. I think this is the year where I'd like to see it happen. After all that being said, if someone asked me who's going to win the grand final right now, I'd probably say the Brisbane Broncos again. But leave that away. And I think the Roosters are a big shake in 2026.
Mate, I love it. I absolutely love it. Look, I'll take a line from the CEO of the NRL, Peter V'landys, who said, "How good's rugby league?" I have to agree. I absolutely love rugby league, especially the Sydney Roosters, and I think we are primed for a big, big year based on all the points the boys said here. But I just think Roosters fans, you should be excited for 2026. Fire up. Get ready, get down to Allianz, make sure the vermin don't get over there, and let's have a massive season in the red, white, and blue. It's going to be a good year up the Chooks. All right, well, that is it for our Sydney Roosters preview. Thank you so much to the Leaguie and Retro Rugby League for joining me. Don't forget to check out our great friends at Dream Flooring in Penrith. Miko and Sam do a great job over there. So head over to Dream Flooring Penrith and check them out today. But until next time, I'm Joey. That's Retro. That's Leaguie. Be good.